Hello and welcome to another Evolution Exchange live podcast where we'll be discussing how to transform business with AI through the sharing of real-world experiences and innovations. Our goal today is to share thoughts and insights on the topics of the importance of AI in the modern business landscape, implementing AI in your business, AI and workforce transformation, navigating the AI landscape, and as ever, I have some industry experts with me today who are ready to share their thoughts and insights with you, as well as answer any questions that come through on the comments. So let's get into the intros. I'll start. My name's Liam. I am the co-founder and managing director of Evolution, a specialist recruitment consultancy with a defined purpose of helping companies and individuals realize their potential and a brand promise to create a great recruitment experience. Thanks for joining us. Over to you, Raj.
Thanks, Liam. I'm Raj. I'm the COO, CTO for Orica Digital Solutions. So Orica, 150 years of chemical explosives company for the mining industry, and I lead the Orica Digital Solutions. Happy to talk more about how traditional industries can still become relevant in the new digital aspect. So my job is basically commercializing technology. So involved in developing technology, delivering technology, and more importantly, making revenue and profits out of it as well. So happy to be here and passing on to Parth.
Thank you, Raj. My name is Parth Pandya. I'm the head of technology and data at Buzzer. We have a no-code platform at Buzzer, and we create digital products for various different industries, primarily industrial relations or HR law. And my expertise is in bringing cloud data and the innovation in technology landscape together. And with my team at Buzzer, we are taking law industry and creating digital products and using analytics and AI to bringing in how we can bring innovation in the hands of any industry. So this is where we work in digital platforms.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks to both of you. Great to have you with us. So, where to kick off the conversation today? So, from a positioning perspective, it would be a good place to start to talk about the importance of AI in the modern business landscape, and how it's already reshaping what have been traditional, conventional business models, and how we're kind of already seeing that play a part. So. Thought I'd put that over to you first, Raj. What are your thoughts in terms of how it's already reshaping traditional, conventional business models?
Sure. Thanks, Liam. We have seen a lot. We read a lot about AI. We experience it. We are part of that in our ecosystems in our day-to-day life. So if you're really looking from a business model, there's a lot happening in the B2C space. Okay. What I would like to probably shed some light is what is happening in a B2B, and especially even giving a little bit more of is the business model from AI is only for a digital native just starting up, or could it also be extending to a very traditional in heavy industries, right? And that's probably where Parth and I have a complementary view in this case, because I come from very traditional oil and gas company, and now I'm working for a resources industry. Long years in what we are doing, and how we can still stay relevant using the concept of AI and you introducing that in the business model, right? And Parth is going to be sharing a lot more about how you do it in the digital native companies, and hopefully between us, you'll be getting a comprehensive view. So going back to the business model question that Liam put, right? In a B2B world, if you think about traditional life, you just have a supplier, you have a customer, there is an input, there is an output, it's a single network. And then you have competition. And that's pretty much it, right? So you have a very simple landscape. And now you're bringing in the digital technology, AI is part of it, you completely change the landscape. So it is no longer the classical thing that we are looking at competition in the rear view mirror. Competition is coming at lateral, not just from your own industry, from other industries as well. And it has already happened in telecom, and it is going to be happening in other industries as well. So in that landscape, the business model has to evolve as well. So it is no longer the input, output, supplier, customer, and then competition relationship. How do you start using network effect in this case? And which is where even traditional, Orica has been in this, as I said, 150 years. Even in this case, when we are doing Orica digital solutions, we are assuming, or we are actually going with an open platform. So what it means is we are actually collaborating with ecosystem partners in the value chain, not just us within the competition, but taking the competition and taking the landscape across the value chain. I'm sure you would have heard terms like frenemies, co-opetition. That's exactly what is happening in the landscape today, right? So we will be competing against certain players in a vertical or a swim lane, but cooperating with the same person to offer, create new value and capture new value in the ecosystem. So if you ask me, those are the two things, right? How do you reinvent the organization to go from the traditional to the new world? And that is happening through that collaborative ecosystem in an open manner. And second is, how do you start creating new value and capturing new value? And those are the two elements that the business models are changing continuously. And the reason for doing that is, if you don't do it, you will not stay relevant, right? And this is the re-emergence of this. Every organization, and Parth will talk a lot. You got to exploit and explore, meaning you got to strengthen your core, the business that you are in, which is the exploitation, and then explore. And it is not an and or, it is both. And that is the ambidexterity of a business model. So passing on to Parth.
Yeah, and great point, Raj. I think every industry is becoming technology enabled now. So there's no business in the world which is not a technology business if you want to put AI or data at play. Traditionally, let's say, if you are running a concrete manufacturing plant, your job was to just mix up the concrete, put it in a barrel on a truck, and deliver. But today, you see companies putting sensors on the truck, putting sensors on the machines that has the spout to fill up the truck, and also do time tracking as well as time series analysis to understand what's the viscosity of the concrete in the truck, when did the truck depart, when did it arrive, what's the route it take, and what time and what temperature of the day it was. Just because you want to measure everything to make sure that when you dump that concrete, it's of the right combination, right temperature, right viscosity. So your business can go back and say, we delivered the right quality of the concrete at the right time, and these are the logs. Now it's up to the concrete laying company or contractor to do things right. And this is an example where you can look at a very traditional construction company example where it's not just about mixing concrete and running a truck and delivering. It's all around how can we use smarts to make sure that if a federal government agency says that bunker you made didn't stand up to the blast testing, you can go back and say, well, the concrete was right. It's the use of it which is not right. Or you can say, yes, it stood up, but now our engineering practice is improving. So this is the challenge for the business leaders on understanding what our current business is, and then changing the parameters of the business to say concrete manufacturing is our core pillar of the business. So this is what we exploit, but bring in that complementary skills and technology to say how can be smarter about doing that business. And then at some point, what you're exploring will become part of your exploit strategy to say, this is how we do smartly. This is how we do repeatedly and consistently with predictability around it. And that becomes the new generation of the company and the production line. So this is the business landscape. If you don't see the opportunities, I think it's a great time to say, don't get sucked into Gen AI conversations and safety and all of that. Go back to the grassroots and say, what's our core business? Where can we be relevant in the digital landscape? And then what are the use cases that either strengthen our business or allow us to experiment something very nicely and then bring it all together as a complementary pieces?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think what I've seen in terms of the very kind of earliest adoption of AI appears to be largely as a time-saving device or time-saving tool. And I think it's a case of, these are the things that we can just get AI. Just use ChatGPT, for example, right? The kind of probably the version of AI that most people will be familiar with. It's a case of, right, this is a task that I need to do or that I need to do regularly, and it takes me some time. Let me just see if ChatGPT can do it, or at least most of it, or a good part of it for me quicker. So, and it does. And let's use the example of a recruitment company. It might be a candidate write-up, we're sending across to a client, or it might be a job ad, or whatever it might be. It's just a piece of text creation or content creation. You need to go through and and correct it and edit it and whatnot, but that's much quicker than having to write it all from scratch every time. And I think that's where the easiest way that people have been able to kind of implement it into their task or their job or their business. What it would be interesting to see is how once that becomes okay, well, look, that's just AI does that for us now. We don't manually do those. Nobody manually does those things anymore. That's the thing we used to do. Now it's just taken care of for us. What the kind of the next layer of application of AI will be before we get to the really kind of super detailed, business processes and leveraging it for competitive advantage and new ideas and that type of thing. The thing I think people are in the back of their mind are thinking, right, this is what it can do. Let's get to that point. What are the steps from it being? What are the steps do you see it as being in terms of it's increased adoption from, hey, this is something that will save me some time, to, wow, this is an absolute game changer in my business? Is it as simple as going from that to that, or are there steps along the way between the two?
I'll take that, Raj, and then chime in. I think the best way to start this is to actually acknowledge that Gen AI, which everyone's super excited about and experimenting, is not the start of it or the only way to get exposure to AI. So, for example, the industry as an artificial intelligence and machine learning has been around in academics and in some shape and form of industry usage since 1970s. What we are seeing with ChatGPT is the mass adoption and experimentation of that technology as a model generating outputs in a very simpler interface. You can literally like talk or a chat via text to that model, and that has shifted the perception of AI immensely. Raj and I studied AI and business and technology platforms at Harvard Business Analytics program even before ChatGPT came out into the world. And important things to kind of understand and acknowledge is, if you put Gen AI on the side, there are still a lot of clustering models, predictions through regressions, and you could also do classifications as various different models to understand how you can bring repeatability and explainability to the AI deployments. So, for example, if you ask ChatGPT five things today, tomorrow the answers might be along the similar line for the same questions, but not exactly to the same accuracy because it's generated at that time. But if you take business as an example, if you are planning to use your resource allocation, your financial analysis, or credit card application outcomes or home loan outcomes, there's lot of data science as in terms of supervised learning and unsupervised learning that you can apply, and you need maths and statistical backgrounds and data scientists to work on these models to give you that explainability. So when you knock off a home loan application, you can say my internal chat gpt implementation said it's a bad application, so we knocked it off. Need to have substantial evidence and explainability behind your model to say why such that. And this goes into that heart of AI conversation, saying what we do as time saving activity with Gen AI deployments, and not just chat gpt, there are various flavors of that. um, it's not that simple learning curve saying I played with this, I can be a data scientist. There is a whole different world out there where people make a career out of this to say I can create models to do likewise customer clustering. So these paying customers is my cluster, and can I move another set of customers or leads from this other cluster closer to that and then convert them to a paying customer. And that won't happen with chat gpt interface to say upload this spreadsheet data and then ask the right questions. So this is where I think the vision needs to be in the leadership, saying it's not chat gpt play which we went through, how can we do next. It's there's a lot more to this as a field, bring in the right skills and then look at it in a different context. Maybe Raj, if you want to talk
Yeah,
more about your projects.
sure. Liam, you asked the right question, right? So if you think about it, today, as you said, there's a lot going on in the time saving. Hey, I did some model. I reduced my task time, but that is going to be your, easy to do. A lot of cases. But really, if you look at the purpose and if you really look at the ability of what we have now, this is where I was talking about. How do you go from this mass use, single task time thing to actually making something to change the entire business model, right? But that is a complex one, and that's a tough journey. But that is where you have to be going there. So, and in fact, just to give you an example of what I work, then it makes it much more relevant. So, if you look at Orica, for example, we have this compelling vision, right? Very emotional, compelling, overarching vision saying we are going to be sustainably mobilizing Earth's resources, right? For the world of electrification, you need copper, lithium. We all know we need to be extracting more minerals to stay clean, right? If you're going to do the current model of everyone staying in those discrete silos, you can't, right? And this is where you have to have this compelling vision of how do you do that sustainably? Still, we extract resources, but in a sustainable manner. Then you bring in the technology, which is where artificial intelligence comes in, sensors, softwares. So instead of staying in your single swim lane earlier, the companies used to do, what now we are doing, we are connecting the entire value chain. So sensors starting all the way from geology, going into operations, and then going into the processing. And now the business model is no longer supplying an output. It is more an outcome. And that changes the game because now it is no longer, as I told you, it is one vendor to one. We are now working with collaborating with different vendors and coming up with a new business model, which is an outcome driven business. And like you said, that is the journey that some organizations take. And if you're really looking into creating value from an AI perspective, I see that is the future. How do you use all the data, all the sensors coming in, the software, and new insights? How do you take it into the intelligence? So the journey from data to insights to intelligence and creating new value for an organization is going to be the key.
Yeah, and I think that value portion ties in super well with business domain. Uh, there is this technology driven view around AI at this point, saying this model, ChatGPT 4.0 and mini models are coming out, which can run on devices, and you don't need that infrastructure connectivity. But I think the less talked about piece here is the importance of business domain. So, what is critical ingredient in this recipe is to understand what are the business drivers, the efficiency gains that change the bottom line, the expert judgments that is embedded into key departments and individuals within the organization, and then working with them within the large to small organizations to say how can we operationalize through technology those key decisions that an individual makes, and how can we use smarts from AI to complement and in a way create an augmented decisioning. So AI is not doing things on its own. It's understanding why we do certain things within an organization and then supplying that overlay to say, based on your 50 other projects that you've done, your judgment was around this much percentage of extra contingency. And the modeling says it should be, rather than 12, it should be 15. And that
Yeah.
augmented presence of AI is the kind of important piece in this context.
Yeah. Looks like there is a question, Liam. So
Yeah, we have a question through from our audience member Arjun, who has asked, "How good is AI in today's world in relation to predictive outcome?" Raj, would you like to share your thoughts on that?
yeah, probably again, in a B2C world, there is a lot of data available, which brings in bias and everything, but at least there is a lot of data available. So you can start predicting certain outcomes using LLMs in certain B2C applications. But once you come into a B2B world, i- AI of usage today is probably still, I would always call not artificial intelligence, it's more augmented intelligence to get the outcome. Because in today's world, and even to a certain extent, you would need a combination of, if you are a mathematics, I can explain it's a Venn diagram, right? You need computer science, you need statistics, and you need domain expertise. So the intersection of these three will be the use case to go to the predictive outcome. Because if you think about it, if you have just computer science and statistics with no domain expertise, it'll be garbage. And if you just have statistics and domain expertise, you can't scale. You'll have solution for only one particular problem. Whereas if you have computer science and domain, you will not have scenario planning. So at this point in time, answering your question, there is a lot of predictive outcome capability, but it depends on this intersection of three things I talked about: programming, statistics, and domain, which is why I would say it's more an augmented intelligence in today's world. That can change as more data comes in, more models are built, and then it can go into a lot more artificial. But today it is more augmented.
Yeah,
But
and I'll second that, Raj. I think what I can add to that is uh, the the quality of the data, the size and the velocity of the data has a huge impact on these predictive capabilities. So, for example, if you have garbage data to train your models on, or your data has so many features that are not so relevant, and you're just saying, I'll throw everything at the model, let it do its best job, it might be even kind of worse than a coin flip probability. If it does 50% right, 50% wrong, it's no better than a coin flip situation that someone will kind of make a manual judgment on. But if you know the business problem that can lift your value proposition, you can go a lot more informed in what type of data you select to train your model. And then there are examples where 70% accuracy has a huge gain as in business line benefits. If you can predict with 70% accuracy that this is a bad loan that is impacted because of certain past performances, then um, there are institutions who will say, no, we don't want this loan, even if it looks right. It's not a fraud case, but it's the probability of having financial difficulty in a very near future. And look at spam filters. Like spam filters have gone from keyword searches to rules based engines to data driven. And that's a classic example where predictive outcome is getting exponentially better, not just on the rules based, but through the data. And as the cybersecurity landscape changes, spamware to malware and phishing attacks, spam filters are exponentially getting smarter and smarter. It's all data driven, predictive outcomes, but a right model with right type of signals going in at scale to make it even better and better. I remember I've seen not spam getting marked as spam, a spam getting through the spam filter, and we just see the efficiency come through in last few years to say, yeah, there are less and less chances, but there are guardrails to say, hey, that was not spam, which is very critical for the input to the model. And then there are other signals cloud providers are bringing in to say one attack on one infrastructure should be detected and prevented on the other side of the infrastructure. So predictive analytics is here at scale. It just depends how you go about solving your problem.
No, I think what you mentioned there is a nice kind of link into the next question. And one of the things we wanted to talk about today were overcoming challenges and hurdles in the kind of adoption or implementation of AI. And Sumendu has asked a question of you guys as to what are the guardrails that you have in place or you think should be in place to ensure your AI use cases do not compromise your business value to end clients. Raji, we're going to start with that one.
Yeah, I'll start, and then I'm sure Parth will add. Uh, from a lead, I'll give you answers in a couple of aspects, right? Because AI is so every omnipresent at this point, it gets a lot of attention, and even in every organization, there is this fear of missing out, right? So everyone wants to be involved in AI in some form. So the problem I always have is, at least the way to guardrail is, the technology is great, it's shiny, the technical folks are always going to love this, do a lot of this, but the key is you cannot have a solution and then start looking for a problem. That is that is the first guardrail, right? Because it's easy to come up with something and then say, okay, now I have done this, I'm not sure what I'm going to go, and then can I use here, can I use that? The problem is what will happen in any organization, you just create mistrust, and then the whole hype factor goes out. So again, keep, doesn't matter what technology, including AI, the first guardrail is what is the problem statement, what is the value we are trying to resolve, and then how do we do it comes the whole AI as a technology, as a platform to come in. So always start the problem statement and then come up with the solution, not the other way around. The second one If you're managing from a leadership aspect, in my case, I'm managing a portfolio. I always tell myself and my leaders, it is actually okay to be consistently inconsistent. What I mean by that is, in a certain portfolio, you will be making decisions optimizing profit in certain use cases. In certain use cases, you're going to scale, and in certain use, you're going to cannibalize. So, meaning you're going to take decisions completely inconsistent in all aspects, right? So, for optimizing, you're going to sweating your asset. In scaling, you're going to add more, get a lot of resources to build some new use cases to the new customer, new growth market. And in the last one, you're going to cannibalize, you're going to take some actions. So, your actions are going to be, as I said, consistently inconsistent in managing the portfolio. So, the guardrails very clear is have a problem statement, then start looking for a solution and completely adapt to the leadership aspect of don't get emotionally attached to one. You need to be performing all of those three. That would be the two guardrails at my aspect. And Parth, I'm sure you will have a lot more from a
Yeah,
leadership
and
aspect.
a great point, right? I think to build upon that, if you have those kind of inconsistencies within different teams and the way they all go about exploring, I think the role of orchestrating this as one organizational strategy becomes very critical. So, for example, if you don't have an accountability as a strategy that everyone's agreed on, what will happen is, let's say, for example, Facebook feed at one point had a situation where it's an article about a cruise ship sinking, but the ad team was using some analytics capability to say, if someone talks about cruise ships and holidays, we want to show piano cruise ship promotion ad. Now, finding relevant content from the ad team to put this ad is not a bad strategy. It's contextual. But then not knowing what the safety guardrails needs to be in place into the core strategy or one vision of the organization allows these silos to not have that classic orchestrated outcome. So, in my view, I think organizations need to look at that leadership role and a strategy piece as in there is someone there or a small team there who is the orchestrator of the symphony. And then these guardrails come under that pieces to say, yes, you can explore avenues, but you are still staying within that orchestration strategy. And this is where I think uh, that piece on how you put guardrail also goes back to the business domain. So if I talk to you, your industry, Liam, if you're basically saying, I'm going to filter uh, resumes based on experiences and try to put right candidates in my ordering of the interviews in the recruitment process, a model may need all this data, but the guardrail will need to basically go in and say, I'm going to be not looking at genders, ethnic backgrounds, and other events that give me some sort of a bias towards one ethnic group or age group or gender. Happens a lot in kind of gender-based and educational and career breaks area. Like you can basically say, my strategy says we don't want gender as a decider in the model, but these models are a lot more smarter as in terms of their capabilities to derive features. And this is more of a data science question and area to say, I didn't tell you a gender, but on other signals or other features, you can still derive saying this age group seem to have career breaks around similar time based on average age of pregnancy in Australia. And then it will start swaying away towards one gender bias even if you decided that your strategy doesn't allow for gender-based inputs into the modeling. So this is where I think having someone set the tone of the strategy, orchestrate this effort, but then also measure and bring in that feedback loop becomes critical.
Yeah.
Uh,
Just one comment on that part. The main
sure.
thing while we are doing it is, again, both Parth and I, don't take us wrong. We are not creating big walls. Uh, we're not asking this to be a bureaucratic process of 5 layers of approvals to go
Exactly.
and do a use case. Not at all, right? And that is not the guardrail. The guardrails are more to make sure that we are doing the right things. Things can fail, things can be experimented, but are we creating value? And then it's easy to create value. Are we going to be able to monetize and capture that value? And that is the directional sense we are talking about from a guardrail aspect. And the last,
Correct.
I will also probably add to go into the parts about the structure and the features. What we now, even in the big industries, is becoming very clearly talking about an ethical AI, meaning no longer you can just say this is a black box. You got to be able to explain what is your assumptions, what is your features, and how you are deriving that, because customers would want to know that, right?
Yeah.
So have that in your structure strategy when you're developing the use cases would be another important aspect going forward.
Yeah, and it's exactly the same parallel world as the cybersecurity, right? Today, if someone comes in and says, "What's your cybersecurity practice?" and can I get some details around these standards on how you manage your data, how you have procedures and practices in place against data loss prevention and just normal health check of your practice. It's a very standardized, transparent way of measuring it and explaining it. I think AI guardrails are coming into that context, saying, can you describe how you do it? Can you explain how you are protecting against certain scenarios? It's a lightweight activity, but goes in with a lot more thought and pieces put in place. And this is the charm of it, saying you can't just keep playing and fiddling with it. There has to be a very mature model, but and it will create friction. If I'm experimenting and creating models, my model may not always come up with good outcomes, and the data science team should be able to raise the hand and say it's not good enough. And that failure of model into certain hypotheses is actually a good outcome. And the way IT systems have been designed for decades creates a fiction because it's not predictable as an outcome of a software out, output.
But I think Liam asked more questions for us.
Yeah.
But when the three of us caught up last week to prep for this, it was we talked about it, lots of different things for a long time. So I was always conscious that these subjects there are lots of tangents we can go off on these things. So and I'm sure just for the audience out there that have any questions, I'm sure that Raj and Parth. And myself, but I guess that these guys are the experts, so they'd be more than happy for people to kind of reach out and connect directly to kind of explore any more of these concepts or topics that we're talking about today. One thing I definitely did want to get us to covering today is obviously as a recruitment company, the employment and the future of tech employment and tech skills and jobs is incredibly important to us, and the vast majority of our audience. So what I wanted to kind of get your guys' opinion on was, in terms of AI and workforce transformation, what will the impact, in your opinion, what will the impacts of AI be on jobs and skills, and how do we, as a workforce, as a technology workforce primarily, I would say, how do we prepare for an AI-driven future? Like, there's lots of people who are already on this, lots of people who are quite way ahead. People adopt things at different paces. How would you recommend that technologists, let's say, whether they're early or kind of halfway through their career, prepare themselves for a very, very different future thanks to AI?
Yeah. So I'll start with it and I'll give it to Parth. Even before answering the question, how, just to give you some, the job I'm in, and it can be even material in that way, right? 6, 7 years, we were hiring a lot because of the nature of the business. It was all chemical engineering, right? Chemical engineers, mechanical. And now, and this is where, like Parth said, there is no industry that can claim they will not be touched by digital AI programs and AI projects and things. And it is not an exception at all, right? So even within a span of 5, 6 years in the division of Orica Digital Solutions that we're growing, we have recruited close to around, we have gone from like 0 people in 6 years back. We are now close to 100 to 150 people in just not commercial, not aspect, just putting developing technologies, business analysts, data scientists aspect of things, right? Just to give you the growth, for a traditional company, chemical business, we have gone from 0 to close to 150 people in developing technologies related to the mining industries. Just an example. And that is the rapid growth we're talking about in all industries here. And this is going to be extrapolating a lot. So for us, for example, we are trying, like you said, Liam, that this reskilling is happening, upskill, reskill, whatever you call, happening within the workforce. We are bringing in new sets of people. In fact, to the point we are even actually going and starting programs in universities. But even before that, we are even starting at schools in STEM because we want people to come in, join STEM programs, and because this is what the demand is going to be in the future. So that's just, upskill, reskill, getting a lot of attention. And what we do with this is where this forum, I was very happy to come to talk to this forum, is really talking about several industries, right? Because it's easy to assume in the outside world, a B2C needs data science, financial, health industries need data science. Actually, the reality is everyone needs those things, skill sets. And this is where there's a lot of complementary skill set that goes along the entire industry pattern in this case. So it's a great time to be actually. If you have been able to combine the skill set of data science, computer, and statistics, this is the perfect time for you to be in the industry, in any industry actually. But I'm sure you have a
I,
lot
I,
more.
What are your thoughts on that, Parth?
Yeah, I think I would take it to the next layer as a value addition to what Raj said. I think it's a great time mainly because of the cloud computing and the AI emergence in our time. What we are seeing is we have that compute access, the storage access, and the security that you can apply to do AI deployments at scale. So, from the skills perspective, I think in the mid career journey or at the start of the career journey, people can look at where is my interest. If you were working in cloud infrastructure space, yes, that's a complementary skill that you can transition to data engineering and data kind of led AI deployment teams. So you can say, okay, my understanding of cloud and governance and implementation of large systems in cloud infrastructure can help this AI team, which need someone who can say, give me a compute environment where I can run my model. The remaining piece is something you can add value to and say, I will give you a safe environment. You just have to check in the code here. I can automate the remaining, and then your system will throw out the output at this bucket. And then this is where the data warehousing people can pick it up and then use it in analytics dashboards or somewhere else. If you are a recent graduate or someone who is interested in the nitty gritty of the modeling and running experimentations, Kaggle is a great location. You can go there, explore public data sets, for example, Titanic dataset. It will allow you to see others' models and say, how can you use the same data set with different models, and say, what's your probability of survival based on your age, type of ticket, the kind of whether you are traveling alone or versus traveling as a family. So these are the places where you can dip your toes in and see if you like this type of programming and analytics combination. And I would say people don't use ChatGPT enough as a learning resource, in my observation. You can use that tool just to say, let's have a conversation around probabilities. Tell me, how can I learn probability in a very simple term, like a 5-year-old needing to understand probability? And that is a very great opportunity for you to dumb it down as a personal tutor and say, let's learn probability, let's do a little bit of regression related studies, and then you can go on Kaggle and Analytics Vidya and other resources to say, okay, I've learned enough as an regression model, and I can do predictions, just simple things on the business cases that fit on a regression line or around it. So these are very practical ways to complement your existing skills or start getting exposure into a whole new segment that might interest you. You don't need to pay like $50,000 uni course fees to dip your toe into certain pieces.
And
That's actually just a really helpful link into what I wanted to, how I wanted to kind of finish off the conversation today, and that is that there's an enormous kind of landscape out there for AI currently, and lots of people will still be very, very early in their journey if they've even started it yet. Whether that be from a commercial perspective, just a personal interest or a career perspective. You've already mentioned, we talked a bit about obviously ChatGPT. You mentioned Kaggle. Are there any other resources that you would recommend people at varying stages of their kind of AI adoption journey visit or use or seek out to continuously educate themselves and expose themselves to AI capability, as I say, whether that be from a commercial, personal, entertainment, or career perspective? Like, where are the places that you guys have learned the things that you've learned that are perhaps publicly available for people to use?
So I'll start with some of the well-published and also possibility of getting a certification type of resources. So Google Cloud has really good learning paths. You can learn AI for a business manager type of a track, to becoming a data engineer, to having some certification around the tools that they have on Google Cloud. Microsoft has likewise, and AWS has likewise kind of learning resources freely available, plus paid courses that you can get, like we used to get in the Cloud Guru for cloud computing learnings. So yeah, those kind of vendor specific learning pathways eventually will give you exposure to all the different type of AI techniques, but you'll also learn enough of the vendor specific services, and that's a great way to find your career match. As in, if I want to be a Google certified expert in this area, there'll be companies looking for that type of credentials. So those are great avenues where you can start with a vendor specific. Tableau is a great example as well. Tableau business analytics products have a lot of reporting based tools and certification pathways and great learning resources. You can play with data sets as well. So those are the ones I would say gives you that jump start in the career by learning something that's directly related to recruitment process and to the company needs. Raj?
Raj, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, before we even go to what resources, Liam, I think the first thing I would probably say is, like we talked about business models, business wanting to stay relevant, I think we also have to accept as individuals, if you want to stay relevant, you need to reinvent yourself, right? And especially, I'm going to use myself, right? A low base case so that everybody can be better than, if I can do it, I'm sure everybody can do it. That's your low base case right? So if 25 years in doing technology commercialization, coming into the whole new world of digital AI coming in, great to be in the leadership. You can manage people and everything. But now the strategies are changing, right? The business models are changing. It's coming into a platform game. How do you understand to the new world of strategy? So that's the strategy, the elements of it. Then coming equally important is understanding the technicalities, that path aspect. Otherwise, as a leader, you will lose trust and respect, because all you can ask is, can you do fast? Can you do cheap? And you will lose the trust and the respect with the people, right? So it doesn't matter where you are in your career, how long, how many years. Actually, that will be the first step to realize that, recognize that we need to reinvent for this journey, right? And the second one is like what the resources that Parth talked about. There are lots of certifications, which is one of the reason Parth and I, for example, met in the Harvard Business Analytical program, one of the program which provides you the comprehensive analysis. But there are so many other programs like that in offer right now. And then the last one is, actually participating in forum. So we do have even in Melbourne, for example, there is a Melbourne AI forum. We actually go and talk about use cases, what we do strategy wise, what we do technology wise, and then share aspect of things. And really, people would need to, invest in time and resources to come and understand what's happening. And then, like Pat said, once you understand where your interest is, tip your toe, and then you can go deep by certifications, either online or the vendor certifications, or if you really want to change career, just go and get, you can even do some paid programs like we did. So there's a lot of, I don't think there's a problem of resources. There's a plenty. It is actually the first aspect of, otherwise we are going to be doing the same thing, and time will always be the resource that will stop us from doing other things. So I think that is the mindset is the more important, to say that I need to reinvent, I need to stay relevant. What do I need to do?
Yeah,
Once you have that, then the resources are plenty. Sorry,
yeah.
Far.
I'll bring in a classic example for this. So, do I need to be relevant? Is evident when there was this TikTok congressional hearing. There was some congressman asking, "Does TikTok connect to Wi-Fi?" And you can't roll your eyes enough to kind of that question. Now, very interesting question, but just shows that the leadership doesn't have an excuse not to know this world. And even if you are a congressman or some board member or a C-level executive, next few years will be a reputational or your career limiting kind of situation if you are not on the bandwagon. So yeah, does it connect to Wi-Fi is a disaster. Some of the others will try to avoid by just education. It's not optional, as Raj was saying. You need to be reinventing yourself to align with this new world.
Yeah, okay, cool. Thanks for that, guys. Well, look, we've covered a lot today. I think there's been a lot of insight from two clearly very very knowledgeable experts on the subject. So I'm sure that our audience has had a lot of insight and takeaway from that, and hopefully it's things that people can go and apply immediately and kind of start their reinvention or their journey of adoption, or continue their journey of adoption within this AI kind of transformation that the world is experiencing. Obviously, want to thank you for your time. I know you're both incredibly busy people. Raj, obviously, just flying back in late last night to be able to attend this event from his home office rather than a hotel room in Western Australia. So thanks for that.
You never know. You never know. I may be a digital twin.
Yeah, maybe. So look, appreciate the effort that you guys have gone to do that.
Yeah.
Again, always for anybody listening that perhaps has a question or would want to just reach out to I mean, look, you can reach out to me as well, but I think, you know, that as a reach out to me if it's anything employment related, if it's specifically related to the subject of kind of AI and transformation. Then, you know, I'd probably suggest that Raj and Parth are better people to reach out to. But I'm sure we'll all be very happy to accept any kind of connection requests and enter into any kind of conversations and try and give us the benefit of our expertise as is required. So thanks for taking the time to contribute today, guys. Thanks to the audience for taking the time to listen to the things we've been talking about. Any perfectly open to connecting and continue the conversation offline if people would like to do that. Anything you'd like to say to sign off, guys, or we're good?
It was fun to chat. Thank you.
Same
We
here.
love it. Hope you get some.
Yeah, please connect with Parth and me. Happy to talk to you guys anytime, and happy to share what we know, and happy to learn actually more from others as well. So
absolutely awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks, audience. Speak to you soon.
Thank
Enjoy.
you, guys. Bye.